Yo, what is up YouTube? My name is Rednu, and today we are going to go over the CM14 guide. This is Gemini Cup Round 2. If this is helpful to you, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Use code MAMBO for 10% off your gamer subs. Let's get right into it. So for CM14, this is going to be the second Gemini Cup this time around. We are going to be in Tokyo, 1600 meters on turf. It's firm, spring, and sunny. This is the venue for NHK Mile Cup, Victoria Mile, and Yasuda Kinen. If you take a look at this track, we have a left-handed track, right? And we do have a pretty long home stretch for this one, as well as the acceleration zone. You can see that the final straight happens pretty much very close to the start of the acceleration, the late race zone. As far as the strategies go, we do think that for end closers and frontrunners, they are going to be given a slight edge in terms of like what skills are more effective and what they have available to them. However, pace chasers and late surgers are not too far behind thanks to more newer tools this time around in the form of King Halo and Nishino Flower unique skills, which can be inherited and inherited pretty well. So let's take a look at the relevant skills. So in the beginning, we are going to be wanting to take groundwork and taking the lead. This is going to be very core early game acceleration skills for front runners. In order to avoid the early game pace down mode, there are some skills that we want to take early in order to do that, and that is going to be usually in the form of like a pair of movement skills like dodging danger, prudent positioning, and Umamusume is going to be very nice as well for pretty much every strategy, okay, universally. If we take a look at the final corner, right, common acceleration skills that were good in like other CMs, right, typically the final corner ones, they're going to be bad. They're just going to be way too late and not going to be very effective, with the exception of shooting for victory if you have it on Taiki Shuttle. Not necessarily if you inherit this unique skill. It's just way too early. It's not going to be able to carry over into that late race. Unrestrained is also too early, and so the relevant acceleration skills include angling and scheming, so front runners are going to be very strong. Let's pump some iron. This is good for late surgers, for end closers. Budding Blossom, which you could say like has a case for almost every strategy besides front runners, right? Louder Trace and Cheer, another acceleration skill. This is going to be more for late surgers and end closers for sure, with some caveats which we'll talk about later. Victoria Plancha, great for pace chasers and front runners. We have Break It Down, new acceleration skill from Seiun Sky, or relatively new anyway. And obviously, of course, Straightaway Spurt, which is an end closer's bread and butter acceleration skill for this type of track, and very, very effective. As you can see, it is pretty early on. Now, it is late, obviously, for the late race, but it's still pretty early, and Straightaway Spurt is going to be very relevant. Nimble Navigator is going to be nice, and as far as No Stopping Me, it's going to be a little too gambly to be worth the skill point investment. It's a very long home stretch, so Guts is going to be very important. You're going to see a lot of duels, and very likely it's going to be a very big deciding factor in the late race, or rather the last home stretch. If we take a look at the sort of vertical slice of it, we have 2 uphill sections and 1 pretty sizable downhill section. So it's pretty even with power and wit, with the exception, or rather with wit being a little more favored because wit provides more consistency in skill activations, and as well it affects positioning. Taking a look at our stat requirements. So very important to note that we haven't had this in a while. And right now for this CM, there are going to be stat thresholds. Now, what are stat thresholds? Essentially, you are going to be giving a speed boost, right? If the stat thresholds for this particular track are met. So essentially, we have stamina and guts, and you're going to want to have your stamina and guts to meet either this number for a low boost, this number for a medium boost, and this number for a high boost. Now, you also have to balance, you know, whether or not these stats are worth the investment overall. And pretty much what is determined as far as like what we think is going to be very optimal is 614 is going to be that very good sweet spot as far as your investment in stamina and guts, where you're still getting a pretty sizable speed boost, but you're not over investing in the stat and not just getting very low returns on it, right? So stat requirements, you're going to see stamina and guts. We ideally want them to be 614. It's not a requirement though. As you can see, if you are having trouble meeting stamina or guts, these are like the bare minimums you need, like 525 or 500, 450 if you're doing a guts build, right? But otherwise, we do want to see more stamina and guts in the form of like 614. If you're doing a guts build, then obviously you want higher guts, right, at 920 for that level, that bigger boost in speed. Okay, so what are the relevant skills for each strategy? Runaway is going to be pretty tough to do, obviously, because for Track Blazer, Runaway is just not a very viable strat. It's not possible to make a Runaway Uma on the new Track Blazer scenario. Front runners are going to be pretty standard. You want the core acceleration skills in Angling, Scheming, Victoria per Plancha, Groundwork, early acceleration with taking the lead. You're going to get this with the Wit Mihono Bourbon event card that pretty much everyone has for free. Umastan's going to be very nice as well for pretty much every strategy, right? Moving on to Pace Chaser. Pace Chaser has a new tool in Budding Blossom. This is the inherited unique skill, or if you're playing Nishino Flower, her unique skill, right? A very, very core acceleration skill. Very good on the final straight, and this is pretty much exactly a last straight sort of race, right, for Gemini Cup. Triumphant Pulse is also going to be really strong because we do have a long home stretch. Velocity boost during that sort of section is going to be pretty effective. Groundwork, Umastan, Nimble Navigator. We do have Neck and Neck as well, which is a gold skill offered by the Power SSR Daiwa Scarlet. And so that's something to consider for Pace Chaser, since it's an acceleration skill unique to Pace Chaser. Moving on to Christmas Ogre. These are going to be the core skills for Christmas Ogre. Now, Christmas Ogre is always a special case because she works so differently from other Umas in that she requires 3 activations of recovery skills in order to activate her unique skill, her ult. And typically speaking, it's a very good, consistent, unique skill. However, for this track, because there's no consistent activator, which is the 3rd recovery skill that you're using for Christmas Ogre, it's not well timed in this particular racetrack. Christmas Ogre, we don't think that Christmas Ogre is going to be very strong. So these are the core skills if you wanted to run her, but otherwise it's just not going to be the best sort of Uma to bring on the track. We have Late Surgers over here, okay, and again, new acceleration skill in Louder, Trace and Cheer. That's Cheerleader King Halo's unique skill. Budding Blossom, you can make a case that, you know, sometimes for a more middle of the pack, less front heavy lobby, Budding Blossom is going to probably have its place. You have Umastan on your left. You have Updrafters, which is a acceleration skill for mile distance tracks, right? More preferred for late surgers. And Let's Pump Some Iron as well. End Closer, and this is also pretty much going to have and feature Louder, Trace and Sheer, Budding Blossom as well. And again, this is more for if you have a wider selection in terms of your opponents as opposed to a front heavy lobby, which is totally possible, and we're not too sure exactly how the racetrack is going to look. Umastan, right, straightaway spur, very, very normal. Daring Strike is going to be very good. So Daring Strike is going to come from the Power SSR Admire Vega, or from the Wit SSR, much more preferred, very strong card, the Wit SSR Mr. CB. Below our recommended skill sheets, you will find example decks and deck skeletons for each strategy. You guys can always take a look at the notes. It's always at the top of the description, and you will have a link to the sort of whiteboard for you to copy, as well as the image, just so that you guys can review it on your own time. Basically, the gist of it is always try and keep a 50% race bonus. As far as like new highlights here, we have the Wit card, SSR Mr. CB. Grass Wonder Guts SSR is kind of cool too because it does provide Furious Feet. Furious Feet is a gold acceleration skill unique to mile distance tracks and most usable on late sort of Umas like late searches and end closers. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the tier list. So 1 or 2 star Umas, right? These are going to be the most common Umas because they're free, or pretty much they're free. You have Gold Ship, going to be very strong. Not only does she have like access to Daring Strike now, she also just has her unique skill, which provides a very, very good mid-game speed boost, right? Over here, you have Maya no Top Gun as well for an end closer. Very flexible, can pretty much fit any strategy, but end closers are going to be a little stronger. Vodka is pretty nice as a mild distance runner, as a late surger if you wanted to run that. Would suggest running a El Condor Pasa as a front runner. I think that's just the strongest strategy for her. As well, you have Metro Ryan and Daiwa Scarlet will be a front runner, kind of sitting in the B tier. And so for El Condor Pasa, another viable strategy, I believe, would be as a pace chaser as well, just because even if her unique skill as Victoria Porplancha wants like the first, second position, Budding Blossom will be able to activate on third or fourth position, right? So being able to chain those acceleration skills sounds like a pretty powerful strategy as well to consider. Moving on, you have 3-star Umas. We have Narita Taishin as going to be the strongest, pretty much, Uma on this track. She has the gold version of Straightaway Spurt, that is Encroaching Shadow. She now has access to Daring Strike with the Wit Mr. CB card. On top of that, Narita Taishin has a very, very high ability for speed carryover in terms of her unique skill, right? And so with all these combined factors, Narita Taishin is going to pretty much be the Uma to beat on this racetrack. Moving on, you do have Seiun Sky as well as a very strong frontrunner. Her unique skill is going to activate precisely when the late race enters. And so it's one of the earlier and the earliest activations of an acceleration skill, making it very, very strong in maintaining her first place, okay? Frontrunners are going to be strong, end closers are going to be strong. On the A tier, you're going to see a lot of Umas with velocity unique skills like Ogre Cap, you have Simply Rudolph, you have Satano Diamond, right? These are going to be very good because we do have a long home stretch where Guts, where dueling is a little more prevalent, and these extra boosts in speed can give you a very big edge, and where they're most effective is where you do have a long home stretch. Taiki Shuttle is totally fine because her unique skill will carry over. You have Barcarolle Blessing, TM Opera O, the New Year one, which is also very nice. And as well, we do have Nishino Flower as a pace chaser. You know, King Halo as an end closer or late surger. I believe it's kind of harder to build her as an end closer, but either way, like, she's going to be very strong because of the nature of her unique skill being an acceleration one. And a new Uma you're going to see here on the A tier is going to be Inari One. Inari One is an end closer, and she's going to be very strong. We'll cover her in the Should You poll as well, obviously. But Inari One, just to give you the rundown of her, she's going to be an end closer. You could build her from mild distance tracks. Her unique skills is going to be very strong. It's pretty much Gold Ship's unique skill, except it's a greatly Gold Ship unique skill, right? So you're going to activate it halfway through the race, as long as, I believe, you are not encroaching on the 4th place position for the pretty much the first 40% of the race. You're going to activate the skill, and it's a greatly speed boost again on the mid-race section. Very, very strong unique skill for Inari One. On top of that, she has Tail Held High. She has the gold version of it in Tail 9. We have Straightaway Spurt inherently on her kit. She does sound very, very strong. It's not Encroaching Shadow strong, but with Daring Strike, I do believe Inari One is going to be a force to be reckoned with on this racetrack, okay? Christmas Ogre is still Christmas Ogre. It would be a little more gambly, though. And Tamamo Cross is going to also be fairly strong. And for the inherits, if you're trying to build your own Umas, you are going to basically always want, like 100%, you're always going to want Metro Ryan for anyone that's an end closer or a late surger. For frontrunners, you need Seiun Sky's unique skill and Angling and Scheming. Nishino Flower unique skill. It's going to depend on the track exactly, but the best users of it are going to be more the pace and late surgers, in my opinion. However, end closers can certainly make use of it in certain lobbies, and if it does activate, it's going to be disgusting. So it's going to be a skill definitely to consider for pretty much every strategy that is not a front runner. Besides that, we do have the King Halo cheerleader, the cheerleader King Halo unique skill, which is a little different and it's a little difficult, more difficult than the other skills. So for cheerleader King Halo's unique skill, it's a little hard to read, but essentially you need to be not past 6th place for the first half of the race, and you also can't be rushed for the first half of the race. And if all these conditions are met, then on the final straight, you do have this really strong acceleration skill, both on King Halo and even if you happen to inherit it, okay? And so this skill is going to be very strong. That said, if you are running in a pretty end closer heavy lobby, this is going to be a little more random to activate, okay? And sometimes not going to be as strong. But definitely it's still something to consider. It's a, you know, a 0.2 acceleration skill similar to Seiun Sky when inherited, similar to Measure Orion when inherited, and it's definitely going to be an edge or the reason why a lot of these late surgers and closers are going to win if they happen to activate it. And as far as for the B tier, right, Narita Brian has final corner velocity, can very likely carry over. But with Halloween Super Creek, you are also going to be able to have like a final straight acceleration skill, which is fine. As far as Inari One, again, this is middle of the pack. It's a greatly speed boost. And, sorry, not middle of the pack, but middle of the race, right? And it's going to be very nice for end closers. And so the last thing I want to cover is with regards to like end closers, right? If we are going to want to use the louder trace and cheer, just keep in mind that some of the velocity skills may ruin the precondition of being 6th place and behind within the first half, okay? These include these skills, Uma Stand, sometimes Daring Strike, corners, straightaways, right? Tail held high, maybe not so much, but playtime's over, right? If we have a lot of these skills activate and they happen to activate early, then you are kind of ruining louder trace and cheer. And so it might be required that you do a little more testing. Just see exactly what that sweet spot is with regards to how many velocity skills you want that possibly have a chance of ruining your louder trace and cheer. Also to keep in mind, you know, if we have more front runners, right? If we have more front runners, then louder trace and cheer is going to be very strong for these late surger and closer positions. However, if you think that it's a more mixed lobby, then Budding Blossom is a very strong pick and is probably a little more likely to activate, just given how much more easier it is to activate in these type of lobbies. All right, and again, if this is helpful to you, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you guys think. And use code MABO for 10% off your gamer subs. My name is Rednu. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.